Hello, hello, hello. So today I wanted to do a little rant on the whole political situation in the UK, which is relevant because I do talk about how democracy is pretty much a farce. It's essentially a part of the apparatus of most statist systems, or a lot of statist systems around the world, where you're given the illusion of choice, and it's truncated to such an extent where you'll have to pick one of their preferred candidates, who then takes over and then dictates to everyone else how they should live and what statute law they should follow and all of that kind of jazz. So why do I say democracy is a farce? Well, it's a farce because it's just another form of control. It's just a political infrastructure put in place to give you the illusion of choice. You think about it, in any major democracy, in America, you have Republicans and Democrats, and practically speaking, yes, you have other parties, but practically speaking, you're voting either Republican or Democrat. So if the political elites that inhabit both of those parties believe in certain core tenets or underlying tenets, you have no choice. You have a choice, technically speaking, but the culture of those parties and the underlying policies that they advocate, the underlying political culture is present in both parties. You effectively have no choice, but you're given the illusion of choice. And if you can, as an economic elite, so if you have these upper classes of people, these rich men and women who fund these different people, if you can fund only particular types of people that rise up in these political parties, then you're at a stroke truncating the choices, saying, look how great it is, we've got a great democracy here, you have the choice between Mr. X and Mrs. Y and all of that, and you have different candidates. But then when you think about it, the system itself is structured, isn't it? It's funneled, it's narrow, so that only a certain slew of people are available for you to pick. And it's always the same sort of people, isn't it? It's always like lawyers, barristers. I mean, yeah, in some instances you do get the whole rags to riches story, like, oh, this person was a barmaid and in truth they worked at a fucking bar for like a week in their life and they still had a rich daddy and all that kind of thing. You do get genuine cases of people rising up from normal backgrounds, but most of the time, if you actually look into it, these people that are available to be picked in elections are going to be a member of a major political party. So it's Republican, Democrat in America, it's Labour, Tory in this country. Practically speaking, if you're not a member of that party on a national level, a UK level, a bit different in the UK because you have devolved political parties as well. But if you want the ultimate prize, if you want to have a great office, for example, if you want to be influential, you have to be a member of one of those parties. So at a stroke, you have this system in most of these democracies, which is the case in other countries too. So you have this political party system, you have this structured system that filters the sort of people that are acceptable to elites. They'll have certain beliefs about the economy, like Keynesian ideas and things like that. They'll have to conform to certain things and have certain beliefs, core underlying beliefs that they all agree with. And if you don't have them, you simply won't rise through the ranks of those political parties. That's why it's a farce. You always have the same types of people, don't you? For the upper middle class, sometimes upper class types of people that are presented to you as choices, and somehow you have this great choice of who to pick to dictate to you. It's always the same sorts of people, always the same narrow set of people. Usually like bankers, lawyers, that kind of ilk. And somehow that's magically a great thing because you have a choice, yes, but it's a very truncated, funneled and structured choice which is acceptable to those same elites. That's the sort of people they want in those positions of power that dictate to everybody else. So that's why it's a farce. So Britain is actually quite interesting at the moment if you're not from Britain. Essentially, what's happened right now is that we've had two leaders in a row now from the Conservative Party, which is the ruling party. The first, Liz Truss, was elected by members of her party, so the membership of her party, but it only numbered in the tens of thousands. I think she got 80,000 votes or something like that. The next guy who's taking office today, as of recording, is Rishi Sunak, and he wasn't even elected by the membership of his party. So it'd be the equivalent in America of, although it's not quite the same, but it'd be the equivalent in America of a few Congress people electing a guy to be the president, and then he takes up office on the basis of that he has the support of the president or a few senators or something. Not even all of them, just a few of them. And that's the case in the country at the moment. So a few MPs who are very supportive, well, they call it the Parliamentary Conservative Party, are really pro Rishi Sunak. And even though he hasn't received any votes whatsoever from the public, there's been no general election, and he's just literally been appointed pretty much as the Prime Minister. There wasn't even a leadership vote in the Conservative Party, and yet this man is now the head of the executive of the UK government, one of the biggest economies of the world, one of the biggest countries in the world, a first world nation in the 21st century. And the reason why I'm talking about this, and the reason why I mention this, is because it goes to show that when it comes down to it, folks, they really couldn't give a crap about how it looks. So democracy works to the extent where they can get the person in that they want. And I say they, I mean like political elites, people that benefit from the apparatus and the structure of the state itself. At least we can say that in this country at the moment. And it works for the opposition as well. I mean, this isn't just a Tory party thing in this country. They've done it before as well, but in a less blatant way. So I'm old enough to remember a few years back, 2007. So a similar thing happened. All of this happened, by the way, because Boris Johnson, who did have a mandate, he was elected with quite a big majority. In 2019, he had an 80-seat majority, which has been whittled down a bit, but he was about 70 or something now. But he had an 80-seat majority in the election. And by the way, I don't buy into all this bollocks about we don't have a presidential system and then it's a parliamentary system and that you're voting for the MP in your local constituency. Everyone who lives here, and I've lived here my entire life, knows that a lot of people do that. They do vote for the man or woman in their constituency to be their MP, but a hell of a lot more people, and I'd venture to say the majority of people, are voting for the Prime Minister. They're putting the tick in the box for Boris or for Keir Starmer or for whoever the suit in front of them is at the time that they want to vote for to be the Prime Minister. It's a de facto presidential system, and given that, now we've had two prime ministers, two highly influential people, arguably the most powerful person in the country, who have not been elected by the public. So, like I say, it's a great case study at the moment. Just I'm watching this like a hawk, because it really does go to show that they really couldn't give two hoots about how it looks if the situation and the confluence of events requires it. So if those people wanted Rishi Sunak, they wanted him for a long time. The financial troubles weren't necessarily artificial or anything like that. I don't want to get into conspiracies and weird stuff like that, but Liz Truss did mess things up. But then it just strikes me as highly suspicious that they got their man in the end, didn't they? They wanted that guy, Rishi Sunak. They forced Boris Johnson out through different scandals. I think the Pincher scandal was the last one. Don't want to really go into like specific scandals because I want to keep the video short. The major point is just to say that if political elites want someone in place, they'll get them in place regardless of what mechanisms there are for democracy, regardless of whether they have a mandate or not. And that man does not have a mandate. Rishi Sunak does not have a mandate. Liz Truss didn't have a mandate. It's not about him in particular. Labour did it. I was going to say a few minutes ago, Labour did it themselves in 2007. So Gordon Brown, highly ambitious guy, Chancellor of the Exchequer for 10 years from 97 to 2007, getting majorly pissed off by that point that he wasn't the Prime Minister. Apparently some kind of shady deal was made in the 90s between Gordon Brown and Tony Blair. Eventually managed to force him out, Tony Blair, and he became Prime Minister. Again, no fucking election, nothing whatsoever. There was no opposition in the party, the Labour Party. He just became Prime Minister. No election at all. The man wasn't elected. And yet he's running the entire country, the first world country in the 21st century. So it's not even a Tory or Labour thing. You have a system in this country whereby you can literally just have a very, very small subset of people, elites, appointing the head of the executive, appointing the person whose character and policies are going to determine and shape people's lives. These are real people. We're not just NPCs in a computer game. We're real people with real wants and needs, and yet it's just a joke. It's a complete joke. So the next time someone accuses me of being crazy, oh look, we've got a democracy, and jerking off to it and clapping and saying how great it is and all that, at least in this country, and I'm sure things are structured the same way in other countries as well, that the political system itself can be subverted and can be manipulated just to get the person that the political elites want into power. The next time someone says democracy works and it's great and all that, I'm going to point to this instance forever, basically, and say that it's all a load of crap. That democracy is a joke. It only works when they can use it to get the man they want. If they can't, they don't really give a toss. So a great case study, and very interesting to watch at the moment. Very interesting indeed. So watch this space in Britain. If Rishi, as he's known in some circles, messes up, we may have yet another unelected person as Prime Minister. Really wouldn't surprise me in these times at the moment. We've had 2 in a row. The opposition are calling for an election for obvious reasons. The Tories' poll ratings are rock bottom at the moment. They're not winning an election. They're facing electoral annihilation. So it'd be interesting to see how long they can hold out. Whether Rishi Sunak, as the new PM, gives in to demands for a general election, democracy wins out, so to speak. So it'd be interesting to see. I can't see Rishi Sunak going anywhere. I think there are certain limits to people's patience. They may just about get away with this and hold on to power for a couple of years. I think at the latest, the election's due January 2025. But it'd be interesting to watch, and it'd be very interesting to see whether they'll get away with it. Very undemocratic coronation of a Prime Minister today anyway. So we'll see what happens, and I'll see you very soon. Sorry about the swiftness of my speech, by the way. Just doing a cheeky little video. So, cheeky little quick video because I've got other things to do. So I'll see you soon, and watch this space.